Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Grey's Anatomy Season 4, Episode 2, Love/Addiction. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So in this episode, all of the patients revolved around the same incident, which was a meth lab exploding in an apartment building, and the neighbor came in with sunburns and broken bones. The female drug dealer, she came in with the most burns because she was right near the explosion. Her husband had only minor injuries, same with her son. However, her son, who was only 1 year old, ended up being strung out on meth and ended up with a stroke as a 1 year old and in a minor surgery. And then the other patient was a customer that was at the house who also got caught up in the explosion and had a little bit of internal bleeding, but ultimately ends up passing away due to a heart attack through the withdrawal symptoms. And then we have the dramas. So Derek and Meredith have become friends with benefits and are enjoying themselves in that sense. And Derek admits that he has a bit of a problem with his addiction to Meredith, but doesn't have the strength to let her go. Christina is dealing with all of the wedding gifts that were sent to her. And when Burke's mom arrives at the hospital, she spends most of the episode avoiding her. However, eventually she does meet her, and Mrs. Burke takes her key to take some of Preston's things, the necklace that she gave her, and Christina asks her to deal with the presents, so when she does return home, they are gone. Lexi is working in the clinic, and Meredith, as a favor to Bailey, also works in the clinic. And, well, Lexi keeps staring at Meredith because she wants to talk to Meredith, and Meredith basically lets her down harshly by saying she's not someone she ever wanted to know. They don't have the same father. Her father left at 5, very different from Lexi's father, and that she doesn't want to know her, and she wants Lexi to stop making it so hard not to know her. And basically, Lexi is very much rejected by Meredith, and we do see at the end of the episode her crying in the locker room. Mrs. Burke also kind of acts as a bit of a therapist for most of the people. First, Meredith goes to basically scout things out for Christina and is harshly told that she is not a good person because of how she informed everybody about Burke leaving. Either selfish or inconsiderate or indecent or whatever the case may be. Then George goes over and he was friends with Burke, and she basically tells him that staying in a marriage out of obligation is not the right way to exist within a marriage, and he should know that too. Then we have Derek coming over, and she basically tells him that he deserves more than someone who isn't able to let him love him, and how he's a gentleman like Burke is, and an honorable man like Burke is, so he should be able to let her go, except as we see at the end of the episode, he can't let Meredith go. And then again, Christina came in at the end. Richard is trying to delegate so that he can get back with Adele. However, in the episode, Alex confronts the drug dealer father, which leads to the baby being kidnapped, which leads to a lot of paperwork for Richard, meaning he can't go home and prove that he's delegating to Adele, and so she's in a bit of trouble. So George, who we saw in the last episode, told Izzy he loved her, is trying all this episode to find the time to be able to tell Callie about their affair and that their marriage is over. And when he finally has the opportunity to do so, having just been, reamed out and basically told she's not doing a good job, she begs him not to tell her tonight, though it is revealed earlier in the episode that she very strongly suspects the affair, and so when he does tell her, it won't come as a surprise. But that's essentially what happened in this episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it's time to rank the episode. As always, we will rank on our mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So on our mostly objective ranking list, the values that I felt applied to this episode, we had our single episode supporting character introductions. We had Archie Roche, who was the neighbor, and he was a neighbor who did a lot with the family and considered them like his family because he was a 60-year-old bachelor, never had a family of his own, and he's really heartbroken to find out that they were actually drug dealers all along, though Izzy basically tells him that just because people do horrible things doesn't necessarily mean they're horrible people, to try to comfort him about, like, obviously the side he knew about them was much different than the drug dealer side. And even earlier in the episode, the husband, Dave Chrysler, does explain that, he lost his job, they didn't know what to do, they had a baby, so they turned to making and then dealing meth as a way to have an income to support themselves, but, that they never intended to be bad people or never tried to be bad people, so on and so forth. Of course, the very fact that they did decide to deal drugs made them baseline criminals, therefore, at least in the eyes of the law, bad people. And then Brian Chrysler was the child who was a 1-year-old, and though he was never given meth by his parents because they were making it in the apartment, the fumes would get on the walls, get on the floors, baby walks around, baby crawls, baby puts his fingers in his mouth, and so just passively he ends up taking in the meth, which ended up with him being strung out on it, which neither of the parents realized would happen. So they never intended it, but that is what occurred. And then Clark West is the one who dies, and he dies by withdrawals while in the hospital, as his body's not able to handle it. So that's 4 points total. Then we have, oh, and like the wife of Dave and mother of Brian, she was just in surgery the whole time, so I didn't give her a point for a character because we never really actually speak with her except for like 5 minutes when she wakes up at the end of the episode, and Christina gives her a rundown, but that's why she's missing from the list. Anyways, moving on. We have 4 points each for the multi-season main character development. We have Krev getting punched by Dave, Meredith and Derek in their friends with benefits. Or I didn't put that as a relationship development because I think that's where they were heading at the end of the last episode when they broke up and then had relations. But in this point, they're claiming to not be together, but they are still actively setting rules and boundaries to essentially be sex friends. So that's what they're at. And then there's Meredith rejecting Lexi. Anyways, that brings us up to 16 positive points, but we do still have some negative points to consider. First is the negative messaging or behavior. Obviously, being a drug dealer is a criminal career path, and therefore criminal people are the ones who do it. Therefore, negative messaging, negative behavior, they are criminals. Minus 2 points. So then we have Karev, who basically, while waiting for the police to come, decides to confront the father about what his son is going through, revealing to the father that he's going to jail and they are going to take his son. So naturally, the dad then decides to punch him and then kidnaps his son to take him away. But ultimately, they end up just crouching in the mother's room in the bathroom area, and Derek does end up finding them when the father starts to freak out because his son is not waking up because he had a stroke as a 1-year-old. So basically, I broke that down into, you know, the drug dealers being criminals and then getting their baby strung out on meth. Karev not having and Bailey does also in the episode ream Karev out for his stupidity of confronting a drug dealer before the police arrived. But that's worth -2 points. Obviously, the dad then does punch Karev, so violence against the doctor, another -2 points. And then the dad ultimately kidnaps the child, preventing him from getting or the monitoring that he should have as he's going through these withdrawals, ultimately resulting in him getting a stroke. So kidnapping, not great. Another -2 points. And then lastly, we have yet another -2 points for the supporting relationship regression or breakup, and that is Callie admitting that she suspects that George is having an affair to Sloane, and then George basically spending the entire episode trying to tell her about the affair, only for that to kind of fail at the end because she knows, but she just can't have anything more bad happening. So she asks him that because she is his wife, to please not tell her right now. And he acquiesces. So with all of those negative points being considered, it is a 6 out of 10 episode. And that then brings our mostly objective ranking to in first, A Change Is Gonna Come, followed by Love/Addiction in second. And my personal ranking list does end up the same, A Change Is Gonna Come and Love/Addiction in second. For me, I decided to give the episode an 8 out of 10. I did think that it had a lot of drama going on. I did find the fact that all of the patients were connected to the same incident to be compelling, and the incident itself to be compelling with the way that they were all connected, with the way things happened, like just even like the passive consequences to the baby that happened. I found that that entire storyline with the patients was very compelling. Meredith and Derek, they're doing their thing. Christina dealing with probably the last bit of aftermath that she really has to worry about with regards to the wedding, getting rid of the gifts, but having to deal with the gifts at first. At first, she tries to use them to get herself surgeries by giving away the homewares to the various attendings in exchange for being let in on surgeries. But then again, once Mrs. Burke comes, she then gives her the key and she deals with the presents because Christina obviously is not having a good time dealing with them. The Lexi Meredith thing is starting, and like I've said before, Lexi is one of my favorites of the recurring characters. So even though she didn't stay in the series for too many seasons, I do like the storyline and I do like where they start versus where they end up with Meredith and Lexi. So I do think that this episode kind of started to develop that a little bit more with them talking, but Meredith rejecting Lexi. However, at the same time, I did feel like the episode felt like it did drag on a bit. So entertainment value wise, despite a lot of things happening, despite the compelling nature of the incident, I just didn't feel like it was overly engaging. As like I said, I did feel a little bit bored at times and I did feel like it did drag on more than it would other episodes. Additionally, I'm still not a fan of George, so the George Izzy drama, the George Callie drama, not overly fond of. I do like Callie though, so I feel vicariously bad or empathetically bad for her that she's going through all this stuff and there's still more bad coming. But overall, a strong episode. Did enjoy it, and that's why I did give it an 8 out of 10 overall. And that brings us to the series ranking so far. And on our mostly objective ranking, Season 1 is in first place, followed by Season 2, then Season 3, and now Season 4 is at 16 out of a possible 150. Whereas on the personal ranking side, it's essentially the opposite. Season 3 in first, followed by Season 2, then Season 1, and Season 4 is currently at 17 out of a possible 150. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy Season 4, Episode 2, Love/Addiction. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.